What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. And we're here comparing Khabib across all three games. This is probably the most commented one that you guys asked for. I want you guys to pick between next. We're going to be either doing Nick Diaz, Dustin Poirier, DC, Ronda Rousey, Michael Bisping, Robbie Lawler, or Latoido Machida. I think Machida's a bit more if you're an old school player, but pick between one of those. I'd imagine Dustin Poirier will probably be the most requested one because he's been requested quite a few times. But I thought we'd do Khabib. This is probably going to be the most controversial one, as obviously people are Khabib fans or McGregor fans, and he's never lost or shown weakness, whereas people just say he has a weak chin, but technically it's never been proven. So I mean, you never know. Let's just see. But first things I'd like to say is this is probably the only one that surprised me of everything. I've done a notable stat or notable item for each of his characters in game. So we're going to start off with UFC 1, back when he was 25 years old, 22-0, 90 overall. He only goes up from here, obviously. Still, even back then, 2014, he was a 90 overall. But I suppose at 22-0, he had to be. We're going to start up with his stats, and then we'll go through what it feels like the players in. His stand-up was an 89. His ground is a 93. His submission was a 90. Which was quite surprising that his submission was so low. His kick speed's a 75, punch speed's a 76. His leg power, his left leg is a 68, his right leg is a 71. And the hand power, his left hand is a 70 and his right hand is a 71. Which I suppose makes sense because I think he's orthodox anyway. So it makes sense that his left hand would be weaker and his left leg would be weaker. His takedown defense was a 97. His takedown was an 80, which was odd, being the fact that it's Khabib. You'd think his takedown would, even back then, be a 95, 96. For his health, body 71, chin 70, leg 72, and stamina 71. Quite weak stats across the board for health-wise, but I suppose they didn't want to give him too much. I feel like his takedown should definitely be higher. That's just a given because it's Khabib. Even back then, I think he broke the record for like 24 takedowns in a single fight. So for me, UFC 1's Khabib is third place. Still a lot of fun. I did have a bit of a mare using this one. He was really hard to get used to, as I was never a fan of the ground game in UFC 1. But overall, it was pretty good on the ground still. The ground and pound felt kind of strong. It was funny they gave him the massive overhand that ended up dropping Conor like 6 years later. I thought that was quite funny that was in the game. Still fun. It does feel like a young Khabib, but his the only thing I didn't like was the takedowns in UFC 1 are very un-Khabib-like. Everyone's takedowns are exactly the same, and Khabib's just were not Khabib. They just didn't feel right. Even when I was practicing with the slams, they just didn't feel like Khabib. So, for the takedowns and the ground purpose, I had to put this one in third place because I feel like they didn't focus as much on the ground game in this one. It just wasn't as enjoyable on the ground as the other two. But overall, like, the stand-up was good fun, and I was definitely surprised at how strong his hands felt, being the fact that, he only had a 70-odd power in his hands. But I suppose, for a lightweight, that's not too bad, really, being the fact that he's 5 or 6 weight classes away from heavyweight. But this was a good one to use. One thing I did think was funny is he had the heavy hands perk, which I thought was very odd that they would give him that. It's increased punches and elbows, just not in the clinch, just in general, which was odd. I never really thought even back then Khabib was stronger. I feel like he's got stronger as he's grown up, but back then I wouldn't have said he would deserve that perk. But yeah, so we're going to move on to UFC 2. Back when he was 27 years old, so 2 years in the future, 91 overall, gone up by 1 point. This one was really good fun, but we'll get into the stats before we go into how it felt. A stand-up of 87, a clinch of 96, a ground of 90. Don't forget, each UFC game ranks their stats differently. Obviously with the starting 3 stats, or starting 4 if you're talking about UFC 3. His kick speed was a 74, punch speed 76. His leg power, his left leg was a 68 and his right leg was a 71. His hand power, his left hand was a 70 and his right hand was 71. Exactly the same as UFC 1. I don't think he'd had many standing knockouts between these two games, so I suppose that's why they gave him the exact same stats. His takedown defense was a 97 again, and his takedown has gone up to an 84. Still not what I would feel he deserves, especially not 91 overall. I mean, he was maybe 26-0 at this point. Hadn't been too active in 2 years, but still, he hadn't lost, and no one really denies his takedowns. His health, his body was a 74, his chin was a 76, his legs were a 75, and his stamina shot all the way up to a 94. I feel like that's deserving for Khabib. Still a weak chin, weak body. Maybe this is where people get the idea that he's got a weak chin from. And he was a lot of fun to use. Really powerful takedowns in this game. Obviously, UFC 2 is much more of an arcadey UFC, in my opinion. Much more over-the-top knockouts, over-the-top slams, over-the-top everything. A lot of fun to use. It does feel like Khabib. One notable thing that I thought was odd is his ground and pound was only a 77, but it felt like a 99. You've probably seen this gameplay. It is quite vicious, but they ranked it quite low. which is odd. I know it feels stronger than it is, but to give him a 77, to give Khabib ground and pound 77, that's like giving Conor McGregor a weak left hand. It didn't make sense to me. But it didn't feel that way. It just maybe they ranked it and made him be stronger. But still, he had a 90 ground, yet again odd. But I suppose at this point he wasn't the champion, this huge superstar that he was. Still very popular, still very famous in the UFC, but not the superstar that he was in UFC 3. To be honest, there's not too much left to say about UFC 2. As always, you know, he was fun to use. More fun than the Conor in UFC 2 anyways. So far I've been having a lot of fun with UFC 2 and trying each of these characters, but this one's going to be second place again. It's going to be the same order as the Alistair Overeem video. The first place one does go to UFC 3, but we'll get into that in a minute. But overall, I definitely recommend going back and playing as this Khabib. The ground and pound is nasty. The takedowns are so much fun. You get to do the slams do a lot more damage than they did in UFC 1, and they do a lot more damage than they did in UFC 3. I feel like their slams were almost like a point of interest for takedowns. They wanted to make the slams quite nasty, and like you could finish someone with it, because I believe you can. But that's probably the only reason the slams felt more powerful, is because you can finish someone with a slam in UFC 2. So now moving on to UFC 3, where he, I suppose, grows to become a champion at this point when the game is released. 29 years old. UFC 3 doesn't do overalls, it just does basic stats. So we'll get into those now. The 4 starting stats: striking at 89, grappling, finding where it belongs at 95, stamina at 93, and a health at 91. His striking speed is a 90, which has gone up insanely from the 74 and 76 that it was before. His power is a 94, his takedown defense is a 97, and finally the stat he deserved, his takedown is a 98. And for his health, his body's 92, chin 92, leg 89. I think he only got those increase in stats because of his popularity. I don't believe they actually feel like he deserved them. I feel like he does because he's never really shown any weakness. But I feel like his popularity is the only reason he got them good health stats. And one notable thing I noticed was all of his perks are ground or slam related, no striking perks. I suppose unless you count ground and pound as striking. But other than that, they're all ground or slam related or takedown related. So obviously they wanted to focus very heavily on Khabib's grappling. His striking still an 89 is better than UFC 2 and the same as UFC 1. This obviously won first place for me. This was so much fun to use Khabib, and it's been fun to use it the whole way through the game. And from using them all one after the other, UFC 3 was definitely the funnest one. The ground and pound was brutal. He's vicious on the ground. It's really fast takedowns. Once you kind of get that halfway mark with Khabib, it feels like you can't break it. And his slams are powerful, and just overall he's so much fun on the ground. As someone who enjoys using the ground in UFC games, this was a lot of fun, and he's pretty insane on the ground. It's pretty nasty. Even if you just go against the computer, it's so much fun just to bust someone up, go up into stack guard, and you just absolutely shatter their face. It's a lot of fun to use him. I never really was much of a Khabib player, so making this video was one of the main reasons why I wanted to, because I wanted to use... Sorry, the main reason I wanted to make this video is because I wanted to use Khabib more often, and this was definitely good fun, and I'm definitely going to use him more often in UFC 3 for gameplays and stuff whenever I do like background comms, because for this was a lot of fun. I'd definitely say UFC 3 won this without a doubt. Just the game is not, even though it's not as arcadey as UFC 2, with Khabib you feel like you are in total control of every single fight, no matter who you're up against. Once they're on the ground, there's no getting away from Khabib. He just mauls you, and I think they focused more on Khabib, in my opinion, than any other fighter. I feel like he's the most realistic fighter. I'd say even more so than Conor in UFC 3. He's much more realistic than anyone else. His takedown defense, his takedown 98 takedown. I don't know how you can give him an 80 and an 84 in the previous 2 games, but I think his popularity is what gave him these stats. I don't think they actually gave it to him because of what he's done, because he was still undefeated through both of the previous games and his stats weren't that good. So let me know if you think he deserves a 92 chin and a 92 body, or not. Personally, he's never given anyone a reason to doubt his chin or doubt his body. People said he got rocked against Michael Johnson, but that didn't really look it to me. I think he just, I don't know, he just, didn't like that shot, and he was fine. He just put his guard up. But I'm not a huge Conor fan, I'm not a huge Khabib fan, so I thought I could make these videos without being biased. But so far, everyone's, been enjoying these, and the last couple of videos have, I think the Conor and John Jones one got over 700 views or something ridiculous, and the Alistair one's over 300 already. So hopefully this one will do well, and let me know what you guys want to see. Remember, the choices are Diaz, Dustin, DC, Rousey, Bisping, Lawler, or Machida. All fighters that are in all 3 games, I believe. So they are a good set of people to choose between, unless there's someone else you want to see and people vote on that one as well. But if not, vote on the one of the ones I've listed. And yeah, so far, everyone's been fun. I'd say probably the funnest one to use was, I'd probably say UFC 2 John Jones was the funnest, and then I'd probably say UFC 3 Khabib is definitely up there with them all. And then Alistair Overeem was fun in all games, but Khabib definitely fun in all of them. Just the UFC 1 ground game was a bit weak for me. I didn't feel like I was playing as Khabib, in my opinion. I felt like I was playing as just some random faceless grappler. Whereas UFC 2 and UFC 3, you definitely feel like a grappler, and in UFC 3, you feel like Khabib, the one and only Khabib. So it's a lot of fun to do. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video, guys. If you've enjoyed, be sure to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe down below. We've just hit over 3,000 subscribers, so thank you guys for that. And yeah, make sure you vote down below in the comments who you want to see next. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Excellent movement here on the ground.
Oh, nice strike landed there by Nurmagomedov.
Oh, he's hurt. That's it. The fight is over.